What is up, guys? Rick Kakis here, and today we have the Nightfall Gold Tier Guide, showcasing not only how to complete this week's Nightfall from February 7th to the 14th, but also some tips for how to achieve that Gold Tier ranking so that you can complete the Sunrise Bounty from Zavala to hopefully get a crack at the Icebreaker Exotic Sniper Rifle. So, without further ado, let's get started by going over this week's Nightfall Modifiers. And quite frankly, it has become abundantly clear that this game is just trolling me because firstly and foremostly, we have the main modifier that's going to determine the bulk of your build, Void Burn. This means that anything that does void damage is going to be doing massively increased damage. You're going to want to use a void subclass. The Voidwalker Warlock subclass is perfect for this Nightfall, and you're also going to want to use void weapons. I'm using a Void Devil's Dawn Sniper Rifle, and actually also the Dreadfang Taken Sword, which is void as well. Now for my primary, I'm just using the Bad Juju. It isn't void itself, but it's a powerful primary that recharges my super more often. Having access to more Nova Bombs in a void focused playlist is very, very effective. Now moving on from there, our next modifier is Berserk. This means that enemies will not flinch no matter how much damage you do to them. Just be aware of that. If you're low health, you're gonna have to wait before you engage again because the enemies will keep shooting no matter what you do. Next up, we have the Ironclad Modifier. This means the enemies have more shields. Thankfully, the majority of enemies you're going to fight, well, not the majority, but a lot of enemies you're going to fight in this Nightfall have void shields, especially the Scions. So that kind of just works out. And the last modifier we have is Catapult. This means that your grenades will recharge at a faster rate. And this is what I mean about the Nightfalls torturing me at this point, because the perfect exotic armor piece to use if you're running a Warlock is the Nothing Manacles. It's going to give you another scatter grenade. It's just going to be incredibly effective for this playlist. Now this is not the first time. In fact, Void Burn and Catapult is kind of a common modifier as of late. Like 2 of the last 5 Nightfalls have featured them. And I don't have the Nothing Manacles, Bungie. Stop it. I am popping 3 of coins every time I do anything. Stop torturing me. In any event, we're going to move on now. By the way, I'm just using the Obsidian Mind Helmet. It makes my Nova Bombs recharge basically towards the next Nova Bomb. Very effective, just going to let me utilize my Nova Bomb more often. But if you have the Nothing Manacles, use them. And if you're not using the Warlock, whatever you are using, make sure you're using a Void subclass. Night Stalker Hunter and Defender Titan is going to be effective on both of those, and utilize void weapons whenever possible. And make sure you are utilizing at least one close range void weapon, because the boss fight actually favors that instead of your traditional sniper rifles, hence why I'm using the sword. Now let's move on from my recommended setup to the Nightfall walkthrough. The strike being featured is the Dust Palace, and this strike actually has an unusual problem in that you're going to have extremely limited enemies to actually fight. And I'll explain that in just a sec. Now in the very beginning section, it is worth saying that it's an open patrol mode and you can still get points. So I wouldn't recommend spending too much time forsaking your time bonus farming enemies, but if you see enemies right off the spawn, it's probably worth killing them. Moving further into this strike, you're going to have your first encounter where you try to open a door, and of course you're going to have to fight a few waves of enemies while your ghost opens that door. Now these waves of enemies are going to be Cabal. This strike is featuring pretty much all Cabal or Vex enemies. Sometimes you do get this strike with a Taken theme, and then usually a lot more enemies spawn. You get to kill and go on more kill streaks and just fill up your bloodlust. But this version, this Nightfall, is really limited on enemies. And that can cause problems, especially if you're trying to get as much points as possible and get that Sunrise Bounty. So you're going to want to try to ensure 2 things. Number 1, kill every enemy possible. Don't mess around with enemies, don't skip enemies, and try to trigger all of the waves before rushing ahead. Number 2, you're going to want to do this as fast as possible. You do get a large bonus depending on your time, and my group ran this through with like 20 minutes remaining, so we got a huge time bonus, like over 30,000 points, and that was basically the reason we were able to get the gold tier reward. If you're taking too long and you're ignoring enemies, you are really going to have trouble filling up your points prerequisite. Because after this first encounter, we have our second main encounter. And again, you have another section where you're going to have to, try to open a door. Your ghost goes and tries to open it. But of course, you have to fight a few waves of enemies. Again, the enemy waves are extremely thin. You have a few Vex enemies, a few Cabal enemies. Make the most of them, but there's really not many. After you kill a yellow health Scion on the last wave, you will advance, the door will open to the next section. This next section probably features the most enemies during this entire strike, except for the boss fight. So again, make the most of this. This is where you're going to want to use your super, even if it's like 3 Vex standing near each other. You want to get all those medals, all those points as you possibly can. Moving forward through this part, guess what, guys? You'll never guess, but there's another door. And this time, you have to get your ghost to open it. But just you wait, there's going to be waves of enemies that spawn while your ghost is trying to open it. I know, very original. Anyways, you're going to let your ghost, again, open this door. You're going to kill some enemies in the background. Only 2 minor waves are going to spawn, and then you are going to have the final boss fight. The final boss fight takes place in this arena. You're going to have to clear it out of all enemies first before you get your ghost to scan the final objective, and then that's going to trigger the 3 bosses to spawn. Yes, there is 3 different bosses, the 3 different Scion Flayers, all of which have a different elemental shield, and you're going to have to kill all of them in order to complete this Nightfall. Now, the very important thing is that, as you'll see, when we engage the first boss, I whip up my sword, we have some other Void Swords, the Dark Drinker is present, we absolutely crush this boss. In a matter of seconds, we crush it. This is not good because, again, you have such limited enemies. Our points were staggeringly low. Yes, it's great for the time bonus, but I would definitely recommend that you do not get overzealous with these bosses. After you kill one of the bosses, which is going to be very, very easy, just wait. A Cabal ship is going to fly in after you kill each boss and drop off more adds to kill, and also adds are just going to naturally spawn out of doors pretty much everywhere. So every time you kill one of the Scion Flayers, stop what you're doing, turn to the adds, kill them, farm the points from them, and then go once they're all dead and kill the next boss. Again, doing this may take a little bit longer, but it will ensure that you have enough points to get that gold tier ranking. And you'll still be able to do this Nightfall very, very quickly, even if you are farming adds. Now, the reason I recommended a close range Void weapon is because the best way to deal with the Scion Flayers is just massive damage in a short period of time. So a Void Shotgun, just plugging them, Void Supers, and the Void Swords, as you can see, they're incredibly effective as well, just doing a ton of damage very quickly. You can try to snipe these guys, good freaking luck, to be honest, because they duck around and jump around everywhere, and they can be definitely hard to get consistent headshots. Again, Void Swords, if you have them, definitely recommend them. And guys, that is really going to be it for this week's Nightfall. Again, if people tend to run into problems with this Nightfall, it's probably going to be with the points rather than actually being able to complete it. It's a very easy strike to complete. In fact, that's what kind of is the problem. It's too easy. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, found it helpful, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny content and don't want to miss out on next week's Nightfall guide, be sure to slap that subscribe button. And if you actually want to be notified of new uploads, be sure to press the bell beside subscribe. Now, if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickKakis. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Speaking of Twitch, during this week, I'm going to be doing some Nightfall carries live streams. So if you need help beating the Nightfall, we've actually carried through a lot of people for their first Nightfall ever, or if you just, need a team, your friends are playing something else, I would definitely hit follow on the Twitch channel because we're able to help a ton of people every stream. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a good day.